Season 2 of the Strange, Rare, and Peculiar podcast, a place to learn more about homeopathy, deepening your knowledge, expanding your universe of possibility in the world of health and well-being through homeopathy.
Homeo what?
Homeo what?
Good morning.
Oh my gosh.
Good afternoon.
You have no idea what I put up with.
And the other one.
That would be evening. Evening.
Oh, it hurts so good.
We just had a really good laugh before we got on here.
I am on Denise's last nerve.
Oh, my last nerve.
And I'll tell you what.
In a good way. In a
great way.
Yeah.
Now, it's snowing.
Well, we had 3 flakes.
We had 3 flakes and it's done.
It's over.
So it's winter, everybody.
We got it.
Yeah.
Get what you paid for.
Uh-huh. Now, in addition to that, I'm pouring the tea. That's irrelevant. The naughty vicar.
The naughty vicar, not to be confused. What did you say last time?
The saucy nun.
The saucy nun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Imagine the tea.
Let's just keep going. We're here.
And so, what's our topic of conversation for today?
Today we are going deeper into, or adjacent to, or connected to, whatever, what we talked about last week. So potency and posology.
So why? Why are we doing this?
Well, why not? You have something better to talk about? We said we were going to.
Open that.
Okay, that's chocolate, people. Dark chocolate cherry.
And so what else is there to say? Because I left our conversation pretty much going, yeah, that's it. That is the definitive. If there was a definitive, album, then it would be, that's it. Published, produced, it's going to be a platinum seller.
Really?
What?
It's too short. Not enough tracks.
Oh, excuse me.
It was good. It was a good start. It was a good opening game. There is a lot more to talk about. I've been thinking about this because a couple years ago, I had proposed to...
You proposed to somebody?
No, not to a person. Not to a person. To a committee, actually. I had made the proposition that you and I would present on potency and posology, including the history and evolution of potency and posology, amongst other things, at the Joint American Conference.
Yes.
And was flatly rejected.
Flatly?
Yeah, in fact...
what happened?
Oh, it's a long story, but I hope that we get to do it at some point. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody there actually said that people are tired of me because I've presented a lot.
Oh, that was the personal thing rather than the topic. The topic.
I'm sad.
Now, can I just say no one is bored with you?
Except
and if they're listening to this,
right.
They're not.
Oh my gosh. And if they are, that's okay. They don't have to listen.
Have you ever told a story about
fine.
where people said... Can you just keep talking because we love your accent?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I ever told it on the podcast. It was hilarious. I was teaching in London, and at the end of my lecture, this woman said, I could listen to you all day. You have the best accent. And I about died. I mean, I said no one to a girl from New Jersey before.
Yeah.
She was serious, but I suppose it's the same way that we think about the British. Although I happen to think, I've had to work on not having a grating accent because I think I embodied the worst of a South Jersey, Philly accent.
I don't think so. I think you got to reframe it because, see, accent is accent, but it's the phrasing. I'm going to
pour the tea. No, but you know what happens if I'm around my family. Give me 2 glasses of wine in an hour with my cousins.
You just interrupted me.
Sorry.
And so
pass me your teacup.
And now you're barking orders at me.
Do you want your tea?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, then.
Real bad.
All right.
So that's not what I was going to say because it's not about you and your accent getting thicker because an accent is an accent.
Yeah.
But it's the use of the term woulda or
right.
Or
people in Philly say no, Pashyunk. People in Philadelphia say water instead of water.
And then it's
water.
Then it's also the fact that plus the accent is for me, when I throw in an Australianism, It's like that's something that would be the use of words in a line that people haven't heard before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get when you watch The Sopranos, and you love it because it's things you've only heard my family say, which are hilarious, right? But that's more Italian American idioms.
But the point that I'm trying to say is that whoever it was that said I could listen to you all day it's not just the accent; it's the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the other stuff is.
Which I still think it was hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Anyway. That tea is really good. All right.
It's a good brew.
The one last thing to talk about before we get on to the topic at hand is if anyone has a way to solve static cling.
Yeah, so
I've tried.
I've been walking around the house today, and every now and again, there's a sound like a firecracker going off.
Yeah, it's crackling. It's crackling, and it's coming from me. I have this skirt, this beautiful long wool skirt. It's a full skirt, and it has, like an acetone slip, or not acetone. What is this stuff? I don't know. It's like, but it's making sparks, and I'm afraid I'm going to catch fire. And I can't. I've tried everything. I've tried water, moisturizer. I don't use dryer sheets, so I don't have that.
Let me paint you a picture. Because
I've tried you roll up tin foil.
I went into the kitchen, and
don't embarrass me. You're going to say something really embarrassing.
To make a cup of tea, and the view that I saw. How do I describe this and paint this picture in words?
Maybe you shouldn't. It's a family program.
My wife was bent double.
Oh, no. No.
And she was rubbing her legs with tinfoil.
Yeah, a little bit of foil. Because I looked on the internet.
Where did you find that?
On the internet.
So
where you
rub
find
your legs with tinfoil.
Or I wasn't rubbing my legs. I was rubbing this slip thing, trying to make the skirt not.
Slip.
But if anybody has a tried and true, I've tried the things, but none of them have been true. All right, let's get to Potency.
What a picture it was.
It was really something. You can tell we're kind of giddy. This is the last day before the holiday break, although we will likely record over the break because we'll have time, and we love this. But we're going to talk more about Potency and Posology, and this topic is, it's really it thwarts people. Recently.
Only recently.
How recent do you think?
I never remember any of the spaghetti, angst, genuflecting, any of the moves.
Yeah.
So I've been teaching pretty much most topics related to homeopathy since 1998.
Yeah.
And I remember, I still, not that I use my notes from 25 years ago, because it is 27 years ago, but I do, kind of glance at the materials that I've got in my folder.
Sure.
When it comes to, if I'm teaching a lecture on posology, then I've got my presentation, but I've also got the notes, and quite often, I've got what Clark said, and then I've got what Hughes said relating to it, and because I did a lot of that work in the case management book. I remember, doing a bit of a quick and a dirty scan, literature review of what the great masters said.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is that I've got that, and then I've got what a lot of the new folks said, and that's how I started the conversation last week. And you looked at me and gave me a hairy eyeball.
Did not.
You did, but so I don't remember the what is it?
Controversy.
No, it's not controversy, but it's angst.
Angst. You're right.
It's the angst that people.
Well, no, there's controversy too. Because remember those students that a couple of years ago, we had a couple of students who left. One of them wrote me a letter, and she said she thought I made it up, all the stuff about the 6th edition. And I said, you can read it. I said just because I said it out loud doesn't mean I made it up. I got it from the book that I mentioned to you in the lecture. So I think that there's a way in which it's come to be like
I see what you're saying. So somewhere out there in the zeitgeist is formed another narrative that around this, and so people are arriving at homeopathy having heard this, And therefore, when you do
when you say this, do you mean like 4th edition prescribing, give a dose and wait?
Well, I don't know what it could be, but there's something, there's, and it could be in, for example, in the, on some of the Facebook groups,
sure.
or some of the, the Supermum groups. And not, by the way, not casting nasturtiums at all. About that at all, because I'm not quite sure what it is. But so the experience I have is when I say the same thing that I said the year before, I don't get the same result. I don't get the same impact.
Right.
And so I'm wondering over a period of years, what is it or what could it be that's out there, which is contrary to what folks have heard. Can I give you an example?
Why not? We're here.
Just at ACES.
ACES that's our alumni continuing education session. So graduates from AHE, we have like ongoing community engagement. So people can come to these, they can drop into these classes for case review and questions. And it's really fun. And I'm always jealous when you get to do it and not me.
Yeah. Well, I think I just do it better.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to laugh like that. I don't mean laughing. I don't mean to laugh like, ha, ha, ha. No, you don't. But more like, that was just funny the way you said it. It caught me by surprise.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But shout out to Stephanie and Sarah and Leslie and Rachel and Lauren and Natalie, who were there today. And I think I'm missing one, so no.
You got to hang out with all the fun kids.
And I did. But it was all about the same thing. Firstly, there was some discussions now because, these folks are a year or 2 or 3 into their journey out of school. And the contraction, constriction, and expansion of the totality is kind of the order of the day. Lots of conversations around that.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. We had like case after case after case where I looked at the case like this and it said, go, and there was one brilliant example, and I forgot the name of the remedy already. I never heard of the remedy specifically for adenoids. It was a Leslie question. Yeah, and no, it wasn't. It's a Lauren question, Lauren Messina, and she was she'd found this incredible remedy with an affinity for the adenoids, all of the symptoms of the client. Except for the concomitant, because Lauren's a good,
she's an amazing prescriber,
case taker,
yeah,
and had a lot of biographical, historical symptoms that just took it more broadly in the direction of Natrium muriaticum, because there was some, from memory now, some winter-based allergic responses, perhaps mold, could be something else. And so, we were just talking about that in a situation like that. Yeah, most homeopaths would give Natrium Mur, And I was just going, well, this is a really interesting teaching point, isn't it? Because, we'll never know. And, Lauren, you could have the first example of whatever it was, the adenoid remedy, AGAR something. Anyway, the rest
now you have me so curious as to what the remedy is.
No, it's totally fascinating. The rest of it was around some situations where a starting prescription, perhaps blah blah LM1, LM3, has become 30C.
Yeah.
Repeated. And just the reality that some folks just resonate more profoundly.
Well, this is what we talked about. I had ACES last week, and this came up. Did they talk? Because it was a lot of the same people were there, and I'm glad that you brought this up because it took a little bit of a side turn, so away from the posology part. But so there are a couple of points that I was thinking about today as the continuation of last week's conversation. Number one is that a lot of times homeopaths change remedy when they should be changing potency.
Yeah.
Right? So, in other words, the noise you're hearing in the background is Alastair opening the chocolate. That's loud, but you know what? It's going to be worth it for us. Thank you. That looks beautiful. This was a gift from one of our graduates. Gave us some chocolate. Anyway, this idea that people change the remedy when they should be changing the potency.
Totally.
And that is something that is really important because if you are working on the ascending centesimal scale, especially if you were going by the sort of the leaps that are the most common. So, 12, 30, 200, 1M, 10M, CM, so 50 MCM, so forth. Then you've got a big jump. Like if you go from 200C to 1M, you're jumping 800 exponential steps. If you go from 1M to 10M, that's a big leap. And I think that what can happen is people, they're going up, they're doing this ascending scale business, and the client will have an aggravation. They get jangled up, and then you're kind of stuck, especially if you're doing it in a 4th edition way, give a dose and wait. And a question came up last week, I think it was Natalie, who had asked, how long do you let a client ride out an aggravation with a centesimal potency? It's great. And I said, well, if you look in George Vitulkas's Science of Homeopathy book, he'll say until they basically wring your neck, that they should, basically those of us who live in these overly civilized parts of the world are too soft and don't handle our aggravations well. I mean, that's kind of the subtext of that.
What's your answer, though?
Well, my answer as a teacher is to first say, well, that's one of the reasons why when you start with a 4th edition prescription and you don't really understand what the reaction of the client is going to be, you can paint yourself into a corner. And so then we had to talk about what are all the moves you can make, though, once you get yourself in that corner.
What's your answer as a clinician, though? I mean, imagine that we're not being...
I mean, if as a clinician, if somebody had a big aggravation, it would depend on the nature of the aggravation.
It's really interesting. I can tell you my answer.
I wasn't finished with mine, but go ahead.
I know. Because I kind of lost interest. I'm kidding. That was just humor.
It was so good, though. It was really good.
Yeah.
You pay extra for that.
My answer is that it's about my own anxiety. And so in my clinical experience, when someone's aggravating, it's all about my anxiety profile. Because if I'm feeling anxious, then I'll intervene. And I won't let them ride it out. And I think that's actually probably the answer for most, especially, youngish graduates.
Yeah. And we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about you and your anxiety and how that dictates everything in our world. I'm just kidding. I'm just getting you back for the last one. Anyway, y'all are getting a window into how we pass our time laughing as we try to zing one another. It was pretty good. Anyway, you got to have a thick skin around here. Okay. So it depends on the aggravation, though, doesn't it? Yep. And it depends, Hahnemann would say, and this sort of plays into like accessory symptoms.
Right.
Right? Because if the aggravation is a true exacerbation of the existing, I'm going to say disease, right? The existing symptom picture, then that's usually potency and posology related. But sometimes an aggravation could be a new-ish symptom. And I say new-ish.
Never.
Hang on. I know, because that would be a proving symptom.
No. A new symptom is a new symptom.
Okay, but when I said new-ish.
Yeah, but the ish still mean. For me, I'm a bit tighter with my definitions on that. An aggravation is a magnification of what was already there, full stop.
Yes.
No other questions. If there's anything newish, then that's newish.
My goodness.
I'm just feisty today.
You're really feisty. No more chocolate for you. What I was getting to was sometimes I just moved the chocolate. I moved the chocolate away. Because sometimes it's a return of an old symptom or it's adjacent to something that they've had in the past.
Correct.
People are often unsure about the nature of an aggravation. And that's why I'm giving a squishy answer of that. Because I think that we try, when you're a student, then there are, we put parameters around the answers to something. There's a very clear-cut way in which we make our ongoing decisions. And we use, Kent's remedy reactions, the Vitulkas remedy reactions. We think about the legal and the moral and the ethical implications of someone suffering. All those things come into play. But sometimes someone will develop a symptom, and then the way that they describe it, is it new? Is it something that they had in the past? Is it a return of an old symptom, but in a different form and all of that?
Yeah.
And so I sort of look at it through the lens when Hahnemann talks about accessory symptoms. In other words, symptoms that are, he's talking about proving symptoms, right? When he talks about accessory symptoms. This is with the improper triangle covering the symptom picture, and there are these little bits and bobs around the edges, and the question is whether or not they are enough of a problem to intervene. And he says, well, it's a dynamic disease, therefore it should just sort of melt away. But if it is enough of a problem, then you're going to take the case again, including those new symptoms as a part of the picture. The thing is, because a lot of what you're looking at me with your
keep going.
Okay.
I'll try it up in a minute.
Oh, well, thank you.
I didn't mean it like that.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that sometimes, because I find that you often don't know.
That part. That's exactly what you're saying.
Right. And that means that when you can wield your posology with ninja-like moves, you can make choices to mitigate suffering without changing the remedy. And you can learn a whole lot about your client. So if you're working with a 50 millesimal potency and you are giving the remedy, well, we talked last time about how I like to start every other day, you start every day. Either way, you have a starting place and you can then stop or increase. You can increase the amount of liquid. You can increase the number of dilutions. Farouk Master, he uses the 5-cup method. I'm sure many of you have heard him talk about it. If not, you can Google. There's even instructions on how how his 5-cup method goes. That is one aspect of the framework. But you can have a 2-cup, a 5-cup, a 10-cup. You could do it with 4 ounces, 16 ounces, 32 ounces. You have all of these iterations. And when you're dealing with the complexities of deep chronic disease and the turnaround, and you've got a person who they not only have the energetic pattern of the disease, but they have physical, the physical matter has changed, right? We're dealing with energy and matter. You've got to change energy and matter. And Hahnemann says, well, you're going to know that the person is getting better because the energy is going to change. They're going to feel better in themselves, right? The general picture changes. But sometimes that, you can see the change in the general, but the particulars can take longer, especially if, let's say you have a person who's got longstanding psoriatic arthritis and they've got plaques on their skin. And as those plaques are healing, right, it can take a while for that to happen and they might feel better, but they might be, scratching at something and there's the risk of infection. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You got quiet. Did you go off to another place? You're following the cricket in your head? Busted.
No.
No, okay.
Honey, not at all.
No.
Here's what I was thinking. There are a couple of things I was thinking. The first is that, can I tell you the exact thought I had?
Yeah.
And it is a cul-de-sac.
Why not?
Let me see if I can get in and out of the cul-de-sac and then come back to where I was going.
In, out, Brussels sprout.
So
with a K turn.
What I was admiring with what you were actually saying was a way in which, and from my observations of you during the pandemic and your prescribing, you did amazingly well in really tight corners by developing and stretching your dilution wizardry, right?
We had to.
2-cup method, 5-cup method, 10-cup method, all of that stuff.
64 ounces, crazy stuff.
And because I was watching all of that and going, okay, that's good because, there's no other solution in this situation. And they were dramatic, acute, epidemic situations. My actual question in my head was, just then, Hahnemann never said that. Hahnemann never, he gave the instructions on the manufacture and the dispensing of 50 millisimoles. And I thought, I know a way to make you apoplectic.
Yeah.
Right?
I can already feel it coming.
All right. So, and imagine I say, well, I've decided to do, 15 succussions in between each dose.
I'd punch you in the nose.
So
students know, if I'm going to get worked up, right? If they were ever going to prank me, they would all come with 15 and a spray bottle.
I found a 30
spray bottle.
The 32nd edition of the Organon.
Oh my gosh!
Mess with the succussions.
Mess with the succussions and
so
spray.
So my specific question that I was actually going down the cul-de-sac and then I'm going to come out again.
Okay.
Was
I can wait.
What is it? When is it okay to adapt the authority? and take it into a really profound, meaningful way? And when is it superficial farting around?
Oh, pick me. Can I answer?
Without precedent.
Oh.
Yes, Denise.
I was raising my hand
have your hand
like
up.
Hermione Granger. I was doing it in that really like upright way. I was sitting up in my seat.
Hermione.
So I've thought a lot about this.
Miss Know-It-All.
I've thought a lot about this. And because, I think it's only fair if you are, as an instructor, as a guide, right? If people ask you questions and you are going to answer it, you have to explain the place from which you are answering. If that place is from your own experience, fair enough. I mean, you get to the place of, of teaching because you have, a level of experience. And then if you are asking, but a lot of it just comes from and should come from the authority. And here's I feel like I'm really clear on how I feel about this. In the manufacturing of the remedies, because of what we are doing, right? Mm-hmm. So aphorism 269, the idea that any substance, when prepared in the exacting ways that Hahnemann, shows us, being cognizant of the modifications he's made over time, i.e., the trituration of a soluble substance and so forth, that followed by 270, the very strict manufacturing process, what he's doing is liberating spirit from matter. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is something that we can't explain. You think about all of all the research conferences. You think about Iris Bell and her, the incredible way that she talks about hormesis and all of the unbelievable things that after 5 minutes I have to start knitting because I don't understand. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like my knowledge of physics only goes so far when it comes to this.
Angrily knitting.
No, I don't rage knit in those situations. Right. No, those are just, I'm trying to take it in and I have to occupy my brain in another way so I don't lose it. Because it's really complicated. The mechanism of action is really complicated. But what Hahnemann has done is something that no one else has done. And this is the alchemical piece, right? So from time immemorial, polymaths were attempting to do what Hahnemann had done. And not only was Hahnemann able to manufacture the elixir of life, in other words, the preparation of a substance able to put life back into an organism that is otherwise losing altitude. Mm-hmm. He then takes it, he divides it into acute and chronic disease. That's when he comes to the 6th edition with the 50 millesimo, yada, yada, yada. To me, that is a sacred thing. And that's why, trituration to C3, dilute and succuss according to principles. Then he gives us instructions on the delivery of the medicine. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Hahnemann's case notes from Paris, he uses dry doses, he uses water doses, he uses the potency or 50 millesimo. And we talk about how, like in today's world, we mostly use the 50 millesimo for chronic conditions, but Hahnemann says right in the Organon about using,
in all circumstances.
In all circumstances, including acutes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I'm pretty much fine about that. I think he's also quite definitive on particular aspects of the operations, number of succussions. So you only have 3 operations. There are only 3 things. You've got trituration, you have succussion, and you have dilution. Mm-hmm. And if he is unbelievably particular, grind and scrape, 6 or 7, right? 4 and 3.
Unbelievably particular. That's ironic, just on that point. 6 or 7.
Oh.
That point there.
Right. But I think that's because there is a range between 6 and 7, right? And I wonder if it's because of calculation of time. I don't see that as being non-specific because in the end it adds up to the same amount, right?
Yep.
And so you have your operation of the trituration process. He is very clear. He has tried different ways of succussing. I mean, he even says about the amount of force. I'm showing the arm moving, right? Because there are the particular proportions of the human body, and the amount of force that comes from when you're at the 90-degree angle with your arm and you're inflicting that force. That is a particular amount, which is why, I mean, we're not going to get into the Korsakoff conversation here. It's too complicated, but So he's very particular about the amount of succussion, the number of succussions, the force behind the succussion. And he tried changing it, and he says, nope, I hereby take back what I said, right? I read that passage last week. The one thing that he does not give us a parameter around is water. And so he does talk about the number of dilutions, and he says you could put it in a second cup.
Really?
Yes, he does. Yeah, that is not made up. I don't have the aphorism handy, but I will.
We're in the library surrounded by millions of books, and we don't have the reference?
I don't have it handy. Handy. I will find it, and I will. But no, that is definitely there. So was that? I mean, that.
I love that, and that's a legit response. It's important. So the one thing then I was going to say. Remember, I said I will go down a cul-de-sac and come back out, and then I'll tidy up something.
Yeah, where are you now? You in? You out? You tidying?
I'm out and I'm tidying.
Oh, okay.
The one thing, because you know how things make you apoplectic. One of the things that I realised, and again, in the writing of the case management book, which is now 12 years ago. Yeah. More than that.
Is that the one I marked up?
No, you marked up the method book.
Method book, that's right.
Talk about angry knitting. Have I told you that I got 2 stories about that? But anyway.
Come out of the cul-de-sac, clean up, and then we can move on to other things.
Was the specific... was the lazy way that all homeopaths use the word aggravation. And so...
good.
And so I'm...
Clean it up. I love this.
Yeah, so I'm constantly hammering the students that when they say, there was da-da-da, I aggravated.
Yeah.
And I'm listening, I'm going, no.
Right.
Wait, stop. An aggravation, by definition, is a magnification of
an
something
existing symptom
that was there.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And so when you said ish, and when you were talking about new symptoms before.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And so it was that a new symptom, a return of an odd symptom, a proving symptom, and an aggravation are all very different things that sometimes require the same action. But they are very different things. And to analyze that, in the moment, when you're on the phone and someone's having a reaction, it could be any one of those things. And every now and again, it's really hard to distinguish between them. Yeah.
Which is hence my ish.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That was it.
Oh, good. I love that.
You're welcome.
Because that is something that comes about a lot. And I see this. So one of the things, that we deal with a lot now, Pans and Pandas cases. This is the emerging pathological paradigm that many of us are trying to understand. And the curative, what's the word I'm looking for? There's this healing crisis that often happens at the end with these cases. I don't want to get too much into it, but just in sort of shorthand, a lot of times what you see in these and other cases, but this is the example that comes to my mind because it's what plagues me at the moment. You see that there was an infection treated with antibiotics, typically. Now, these are my words, so don't take this sort of, I'm giving you my interpretation. Just as a little aside, I always say to the students, okay, I'm making this up now, so please put in your notes a caveat, this could be totally wrong. But the framework that is coming clear for me, right? I think it's fair to say that. Like, this is where I am in my understanding.
Totally. In healthcare, there is opinion, there's expert opinion, and then there's science.
And so there's
bad science, and then there's science. Yeah.
Where does this fall? This is observation. I don't know if it's opinion.
You're giving expert opinion right
Expert
now.
Opinion. Okay. And so what I'm observing is that a lot of these cases, you'll see if there is a delineation of when something started. There's often, not always, often there has been some sort of infection. There's been a treatment, usually antibiotics, and then there's sort of this cascade of symptoms. And then when you get to a certain point in the healing, and this infectious thing comes back up. Like the case I taught in Scotland was a good example, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so then when you're at this point, when you're coming to the last bit, when that infection is coming back up, it's like it doesn't always come back in the same way that it was. So, for example...
Oh, I know where you're going. Great.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you could sort of understand this if you're thinking about it from your... philosophy nerds out there, you get your Organon, start looking in, the aphorisms like 26 to 49. We're talking about stronger, similar, and dissimilar diseases and complicated diseases. And this idea of like a suspended acute when a stronger dissimilar takes over. Mm-hmm. And I feel like these cases are challenging that. So did you want to say something about that? Because I want to talk about potency and posology for a minute here. Because that's the topic.
No.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happens a lot of the time, and this is where that ish comes in, because a case is moving along, you've got a remedy that they're responding to, you have the question, do I give a different remedy? In other words, an intercurrent prescription? Mm-hmm. Do I stay with what I've got? Mm-hmm. How do I know what the action of this remedy is? I mean, we have a framework and a follow-up, what's better, what's worse, what hasn't changed, what's new, how's the overall energy, right? I mean, those are sort of the things we're looking at.
Say that, but a bit slower.
Oh, what's better? What's worse?
After you've given a remedy,
yeah,
and you're examining the reaction to that remedy,
there are only, it's a small
what's better?
Subset that you ask about. What's better?
What's worse?
What hasn't changed?
What hasn't changed?
And what's new?
Yeah.
And how's the overall energy of the client?
Pretty much.
Yeah. That's the framework that I use.
I would throw in just, because in the classic Vithalkian way, isn't that extraordinary? I wonder what point in life you get to before it's Vithalkian.
Right. Well,
Grazian.
It would be Grazian for you. With my name, he would never.
Straiges.
Yeah. Anyway, it couldn't happen.
The things he's tracking in the Appendix B, the presenting complaint.
Yeah.
The energy levels and the.
But I find those charts.
Well, the generals in energy and the mental and emotional.
But I find Appendix B to be problematic because it's 4th edition.
Doesn't matter. That's all right. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, so when you're engaged in this sort of dance where you're looking at all of these reactions, right? Because in homeopathy, if before I finish my career as a homeopath, which will probably happen on my deathbed, mm-hmm. I hope I get to go that long. Mm-hmm. One of the misperceptions that I hope I can help to change is this idea that it's all about finding the right remedy, the whole simillimum thing. The idea that you found the right remedy or the wrong remedy, when in reality it's so much is about the reaction to the remedy and what do you do next.
So perhaps, going back and tying up some nice loose ends, perhaps that's what has happened somehow on the airway.
Yes! Wait, give me 5. You got it. Oh. You nailed it.
Right. So somehow,
we better explain it to the people.
So somehow,
yep.
While we were sleeping or having another glass of Chardonnay, that this message, and for me an erroneous post-Kantian, Vithalkian message, has re-emerged that there's a right remedy.
It's the simillimum fallacy is impacting. Yes.
It's the soulmate simillimum. And you see, if there's a soulmate simillimum, then case management doesn't matter.
Right. Which is how some of those...
And soulmate simillimum is statistically impossible, improbable, and, how many folks in life meet their soulmates?
Okay,
right.
But not many.
Yeah, exactly. So it is possible, but improbable.
Yep.
And I think that, perhaps that's it. And, going back, tying up other loose ends, the folks that were fighting with you, are you making this up? It's because to let go of that idea that I have a constitutional remedy.
Yeah.
And how long will it take to find my constitutional remedy?
Oh, my gosh.
Then case management. And when we're emphasizing case management, it's probably quite intimidating.
Wait, do you say until we find your constitution?
No, I never say that.
No, I'm saying that would be pretty funny. When somebody says to you, how long will it take to find to find my constitutional remedy? We have to wait till we get to the point where we can find your constitution.
But you can find that out with the 7 things.
What do you mean, the 7 things?
Oh, see, I don't know that you've listened to that lecture of mine. So I teach, because there is such a thing as constitutional prescribing.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But that's why I was joking, because you have to get through all the chronic disease part till you get to the Constitution.
Well, exactly. Because constitutional prescribing, correctly, is an analysis of the 7 things that make up the makeup. That's the Gemeinschaft, whatever the German word is that Hahnemann used, because he did talk about constitution. Technically, but
the Constitution in his time was about the makeup. Who was it that first introduced the idea of constitutional prescribing? We just talked about this in Scotland. Was it Marjorie Blackie?
No.
No.
It goes to who first started talking about it was this guy von Gravolg.
No, but he talked about the hydrogenoid constitution, but that's different than there was another iteration.
You get, Kent begins it, and then it goes through Tyler.
Tyler, not Marjorie Blackie. Margaret Tyler.
Well, no, Blackie continues it, because that's the English medical
right, but
tradition.
it was exactly. That's who it started with. It was from, that's who I was thinking of.
So I'm thinking, I wonder if that's it, that in a way, the reaction is a visceral and emotional reaction, because I now need to let go of something which I learned and knew to be true.
Right.
And that is really intimidating.
And do you think
really
that
stressful.
there is a relationship between the amount of money people have spent on seminars?
Yeah, I do.
Because so many of these...
Money spent.
It's
money
really
invested.
naughty. Like, sometimes we calculate how much money we've spent, back in the day, going to different conferences and things to learn from the guru. But
I always used to find a way to not spend the money.
Did you?
Yeah, quite often working on the door.
Oh, yeah.
Have I told you my Sankarin story?
Which one? There are a few. But that's also a way to get into a club, work the door. Get in free. Yeah, I did that.
Right. I'm going to say it's 1994 in England, and I was working on the door at the Sankarin conference. It was a big conference, like 400 or 500 people. And the instruction, I got one simple instruction: stand on the door, don't let anyone in that doesn't have a badge, that doesn't have a lanyard.
Yeah.
And this woman walked towards me without a badge, and I said, excuse me, madam.
Oh, I know this.
I'm sorry. Do you have a badge? I can't let you in.
Oh, this is a terrible story.
And she looked at me, and I said, I'm serious. You can't go in. And she looked at me again, and then with her queenly presence said, It was Divya. Yeah, that was my first introduction to Divya Chhabra.
Oh, my gosh.
And I think she may have forgotten that.
But, no, she hasn't forgotten that.
No. Anyway.
I don't think she's forgotten it. Anyway, but some of these, I sort of love that story, except that I could feel, like, I know what it feels like to have one of those things happen where your stomach just drops to your feet and, like, you feel like you want to throw up. Yeah. I hate that. Yeah. Sometimes I think I'll never leave the house again, so that doesn't happen. But then Zoom comes along. You could do it on Zoom.
Right.
A lot of these sort of so-called systems, this is on my mind because I taught, we have a course at AHE in semester 3? Yeah, semester 3, and it's critical thinking in contemporary systems of homeopathy, and it's a view of these amazing thinkers, Rajan Sankaran included, Jan Schulten, Misha Norlin, Jeremy Sher, like sort of the contemporary thinkers, their contributions to homeopathy, and then a lot of times the things that become a challenge to our system have to do with secondary interpretations of some of these people's work.
Oh, yeah. Right?
And it like things take a life of their own. It's like the game of telephone. And so what has happened with some of these interpretations of homeopathy is that it's been perceived as if there is a remedy, there is an answer to the question. And once you get that remedy, all of your problems go away. I mean, this is sort of, this happens with people who think that there's no such thing as an acute remedy, that if somebody finds your remedy, your quote-unquote constitutional remedy, then that remedy is going to solve your acute and your chronic problems, which, first of all, Hahnemann is super clear about. And second of all, if you have a true acute...
Died of pneumonia.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, you're going to have... If you have a broken leg and your quote-unquote constitutional remedy is... not a bone-knitting remedy, you're not going to get help with that. Or
you wouldn't have broken your leg if you were taking your constitutional remedy.
Right. Jeremy Sher would talk about that as the Boris and Matilda Which I do like the idea of Boris and Matilda living in perfect harmony.
That.
Oh, really?
Really? I never, ever got that sort of imagine that as a health...
But I think it's good. I think it's good because it sets us up to understand sort of the outside parameters. Anyway, Boris and Matilda fans, let us know how you think. I happen to say I'm a Boris and Matilda fan.
Okay.
Yeah, but the reality is, the one thing that Jeremy would do is he would treat the person's acute if they had one, and his understanding that Boris and Matilda they make up a great framework of understanding, and they help us to understand Sora. But once you get beyond into the reality of life in a human body, things break, things happen, and you take the remedy that is appropriate for your suffering.
Gravity takes over.
Gravity takes over. Don't I know it? Yeah. Anywho,
happy birthday.
Gosh.
Hey. We started. I meant that just in terms of gravity, but it's also almost your birthday.
Almost my birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I made it this far.
I'm very excited. We've got some plans.
We do. We're having a party.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're going to burn stuff.
We're going to have, because I'm born, I have a solstice birthday. Well, I'm born on the 22nd, and it was the solstice the year I was born. But I share my birthday with Dana Ullman, with Jan Schulten, and with Carol Boyce.
And Carol Boyce.
So,
4 elite homeopaths.
Well, I aspire to be at a level beyond where I am. Let's put it that way. I don't put myself in an elite category, but I do love that I get to celebrate being born on the same day as those 3. I think they're born actually same actual day. I believe they're born. 2 of the 3 were born on the same day. But Dana and I exchange a message every year.
55, maybe.
Dana, I think, is 10 years older than me. Yeah. And I have a picture of Carol and Dana and I. When the 3 of us were last together, we took a picture of the birthday trio. Oh, nice. I have to draw that out. I have to bring that out. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and it's this time of the year, and it's just Lorena McKenna time, and it's the Christmas bells and the sleighs are going up and down the road, and the lights are on.
The Yule tree. I have
what?
The Yule tree.
What's the Yule tree?
It's a Christmas tree for the solstice.
Yeah, right.
But I now have in the oven, I've been slicing citrus, and I have blood oranges and regular oranges and limes and lemons, all the citrus that was starting to shrink. I've sliced, and it's in the oven.
Regifted.
Well, repurposed, and I'm going to hang it on the tree.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Limes, lemons, and...
Well, dried, not like a whole lemon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I'm going to string it and make a garland. Anyway, that's it. I've got to go we have fireside chat coming up in 6 minutes.
Fantastic. So somehow that started with Posology, but we've gone on quite a journey, and it's been a delight. It's also, guess what? I was going to say it's the end of the year, but maybe we'll get another one in.
I think we will.
Okay.
Well, we'll have time. Whether Courtney has time to edit for us, we will see. Anyway, thank you all for listening to Strange, Rare, and Peculiar. Tell your friends.
Could I also just one last parting shot?
Oh, boy.
When I have empty calories like...
French fries and wine?
Panettone and butter.
Yeah.
On top of chocolate, plus 2 coffees and then a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Like I got through 48 minutes just fine.
Yeah.
Now I need a sleep.
Now you need protein.
Okay.
Now you need protein.
All right.
All right.
See you, folks.
Happy whatever you celebrate.
Calling all homeopaths. Are you ready to potentize your practice? January 2025 opens the door for the new postgraduate offerings at AHE. There are different options available to suit your individualized needs. Chat with our admissions advisor, Amy, to discuss single course options, packages, or even a fully immersive 2-year deep dive with live clinics and cohort-based study. When you attend AHE, you join a family. Head to ahe.online and submit a contact admissions form today.